Hey guys, now I know I'm probably going to get some people saying it would never happen, but when one really thinks about it, especially after what Vince said during his quarterly conference call this past week about AEW not being competition or not seeing them as competition, and even snarkily saying, hey, we can give them more talent. And then, his president kind of countering that in a way by saying that everything, including sleep, is competition. You have to wonder how serious of a threat, they really think, AEW is. Some would say that what Vince basically said there was just the first step in denying the fact that he does admit, or he does see AEW as competition. And that what Nick Kahn said to counteract pretty much confirms it. But when I heard him say this, I was wondering to myself, what if a certain moment happens? Not saying it ever would. In fact, let me make this perfectly clear. The momentum All Elite Wrestling has right now pretty much is going to take them into the future. That it pretty much proves to me AEW is going to probably get extended contract-wise by Warner Media almost to the end of the decade, in my opinion. With the momentum they have right now. But we also have to look at the what-if scenarios, because, when you look at companies like ECW, WCW, nobody ever thought they would go out of business, and they did. And who was there to pick up the scraps? WWE. When Impact when Impact was up for sale, everybody pointed at the fact that WWE was going to swoop in and buy them, and instead it was Anthem Sports. But when that moment happened, everybody was wondering what would happen to the talent. What would happen to the talent that went from WWE to Impact and basically used Impact to basically cuss them out, and what would happen to the talent that was Impact Originals, stuff like that. These were questions they were asking when that happened, before Anthem Sports, like I said, stepped in and bought them. So now the question would be asked the same way of what if? What if one day, not saying it would happen, because like I said at the beginning, the way they're going right now, they're going to go for a long time on Warner Media Broadcasting. There's no doubt about that being All Elite Wrestling. But what if the day comes to where, there's no other place to go? That even with all the money they have, there's no other networks or services, streaming-wise, that want to, take them under the wing, for some odd reason or another. And WWE decides, hey, we're here. Why not, let us buy you up? Why not, let us buy you up and bring you in? What would happen? What would be, what would be the scenario? What would be the, the possible future picture to look into? Some would say that the way things are right now, that AEW, if this moment was to happen, and I do apologize for the loudness of my mom and my sister on the phone right now. I do apologize for that. It gets distracting. But basically, like I said, some people might, listening to this, and have probably even considered it as well, would say, basically they would consider that, AEW would probably end up in the situation that WWE originally wanted to put WCW in. That's basically their own separate entity. Let them, continue on as they are. Basically, be rebooted, maybe a few months after they get bought or something like that. But basically, make them their own entity. Make them their own entity, make them their own brand, like they wanted to do WCW. That definitely looks like it would be the possibility as we speak, if that moment was to happen. But then again, you have to look at the other possibility. WWE, they like to basically prove they're the only show in town, they're the big dogs, they're the dominant, force in wrestling and sports entertainment, they're the kings, and they're the juggernauts and all that. What if they did get to that moment of, hey, AEW, gets sold to them, even with all the money they're making? What if WWE decides to dissolve them like they did WCW and ECW? What would happen to the talent? What would happen to the talent that jumped ship from AEW or went to AEW after the contracts of WWE were up, and they used AEW just like they would have used Impact to basically shoot on the company, basically call out the company for being abusive and all that? What would happen to them? Would they be allowed to have a fresh start, or would WWE humble them and teach them a lesson of, hey, you always come back. You may leave, but you always come back in some way or form, and we're going to teach you a lesson that, no matter where you go, you don't talk bad about us. What would be the scenario? What would happen to them? And then you would have to wonder, what about the talent that's never stepped foot in WWE? What about the talent that, sorry about that. What would happen to the talent that's AEW originals that never really truly stepped foot in WWE, and the only national exposure was All Elite Wrestling, period. What would happen there? What would happen to them? What would the situation be, if you will? Would they be humbled by WWE for not choosing them, for choosing AEW over them? Or would they be given a fresh start in the beginning, in WWE, mainly with NXT or Raw or SmackDown? You see, that those are questions you would have to ask and wonder if this was to ever happen. Again, not saying it would. Like I said at the beginning of the video, right now, the way All Elite Wrestling is, they're, like miles ahead of WWE in popularity and momentum, and they're bound to get extended on their contract with Warner Media to be broadcast for years and years to come. Let's not deny that. But what I'm doing is looking at a what-if speculation, scenario, because we all know, like I said, you never say never in wrestling. Never say never in wrestling, because anything is possible. You think nothing's impossible, but it proves to be possible. So you have to ask yourself those questions. What would happen? What if? What if would happen? I know some people watching this will be like, hey, it's not going to happen, and that AEW would buy WWE sooner than WWE would buy them, and that might happen too in the future, but we don't know. But again, you have to ask yourself that what if scenario. What if WWE was to get their hands on them? Would AEW end up in a scenario that WWE originally wanted to put WCW in? And this time, because of the momentum and success that AEW has, they would be able to make that happen. Or would they dissolve them? Would they dissolve AEW, incorporate all the superstars and men and women, if you will, into the rosters of all three brands? And by doing so, would they give them a fresh start, especially those that left WWE for AEW and used AEW to kind of shoot and crap on WWE? Would they give them a fresh start or humble them? And the same could be said for the AEW originals that may have had a brief cup of tea in the, let's say, developmental system, but mostly were AEW guys. Would they be humbled, or would they be given fresh starts? Who's to say? Those are the big questions to ask and speculate and wonder. But that's basically what this video is about. Just wondering the what-if possibilities. And again, like I said, nothing against AEW. The momentum they got right now is going to carry them for a long, long time with Warner Media and the wrestling fan base and all that. There's no denying that right now as we speak. But what I'm doing is speculating a what-if scenario. Because if you're going to make wrestling fun, you have to speculate what-if possibilities. Even if they don't happen. And if they do, they won't happen for a long, long time, if ever. But what do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, as well as the live chat during the premiere. Love to hear from each and every one of you. Like the video. Again, sorry for the distractions and the noise in the background. My mom's on the phone with my sister, second older sister, and they kind of get loud a little bit when they talk. And my mom's watching the San Francisco Giants right now against Arizona Diamondbacks, and when they score, she gets really loud when she cheers, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, though, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, as well in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video, and I am out.